How much does a patent cost? If you're a startup founder, this is probably one of the first questions that you've searched for about patents. And the answers you found may have been all over the place. You may have seen ranges like $5,000 to $15,000 without any context for what it means for your startup. So today I'm going to give you real numbers, explain what drives those numbers up or down, and most importantly, help you figure out what makes sense for where you are right now. Here's the quick answer. There are three types of patents that matter most for startups, and they each have very different costs. Number one, you have provisional patent applications. This is your starting point. It gives you 12 months of patent pending status. The cost is typically a few $1,000s if you hire a professional. Or if you're bootstrapping your startup on a really tight budget, you can file one yourself for less than $150. I actually have a video that will show you step by step exactly how to file a provisional patent application. So you can check that out if you're looking to file your own provisional patent application. Number two, you have non-provisional utility patent. This is a full patent, the one that actually gives you enforceable rights. But in order to get those rights, your patent application has to go through a complex examination process. The cost is a lot higher than a provisional patent application, especially if you hire a professional, which most people choose to do because of the complexity of the process. The overall cost can run into the $20,000 or $30,000 range and take several years to complete, even for a relatively straightforward invention. The cost can go even higher if you have a relatively complex invention or a particularly difficult examination process. However, the majority of those costs are for professional service. So if you file your own utility patent application, the costs may end up only being a few $1,000s or even several $100s, depending on the entity status you qualify for and how long examination takes to get through. And number three, you have design patents. This kind of patent focuses on how your product looks instead of how it works, like the first two. These kinds of patents you can typically get completed from start to finish for under $5,000 with professional help. If you file a design patent on your own, the overall costs are similar to filing a non-provisional utility patent on your own. Now these are the dollar figures for getting patents. But a patent is a business asset, so it's not like buying a consumer product. You should view a patent as something that generates a return on investment from a business standpoint. If your invention isn't likely to have market value to the point that a patent becomes a valuable business asset, then it likely isn't worth the investment into patents, whether the cost is professional service or just your own time and effort in applying for your own patent. For that reason, a provisional patent application is often a good low-cost starting point to determine if pursuing patents are the right choice for your startup. The costs are relatively low, but that patent pending status that you get does three important things for your startup. First, it lets you pitch potential investors and partners without worrying about a public disclosure impacting your patent rights. Second, it signals to investors that you're serious about protecting your competitive advantage, and I've seen this directly impact funding terms. Third, it buys you 12 months to validate the market before committing to the full costs of a non-provisional utility patent. You can think of it this way if it helps. A provisional patent application is kind of like buying a call option for your startup. You have an initial low cost with an expiration date 12 months out to figure out if a patent could be worth a lot more if your startup takes off. The founders who I work with, who time this right, treat patents as a strategic investment for their business, not just another expense. But here's the thing to watch out for with patent costs. Those costs I mentioned are mostly just the basics for getting a patent. But if you're dealing with patents, the overall cost can often be significantly more than just the cost of getting a patent. First, you have patent searches. A search to determine patentability, or perhaps more importantly, a search to evaluate the potential for infringement. These are often incredibly important for making informed business decisions. Second, you have maintenance fees. Once you get a patent, you have periodic maintenance fees that you have to pay to the patent office to keep your patent alive. These fees are progressively more expensive the older your patent gets. And they start at several $100s and can go up to several $1,000s. And third, enforcing your patent. After you get a patent, you not only have to pay the maintenance fees, but it's also your responsibility to enforce the rights, which can get very expensive. Any lawsuit is expensive, but particularly patent lawsuits because of the complexity. Patent litigation can easily run into the multiple 6 or even 7 figures range. I'm not telling you this to scare you, I'm telling you this so that you can plan for it. The founders who most often get burned are the ones who budget for the filing, but not for the follow-through. Patents done right are an ongoing investment. Let me give you a typical example of how this plays out. I work with a lot of pre-revenue, bootstrap startups going through the patent process for the first time. These businesses are working on novel solutions for problems within their industries and are looking for ways to increase valuation and create a competitive advantage. Here's what we often do. We start with a provisional patent application as a low-cost entry point. That gives patent pending status before a product launch and often before initial investor pitches. Within 12 months, after the startup has validated product market fit and maybe even closed a seed round, we file a non-provisional utility patent. The total investment within year one may be around $15,000. The patent application is specifically cited in the investor deck as a competitive advantage and often comes up in investor conversations. That initial investment in a provisional patent application then becomes a significant ROI spend of its pre-seed startup budget. So here's the best way to think about patent costs. Don't think about patent costs as a single number like you would if you were shopping for a consumer product or even a car. Think about it as a phased approach that matches your startup's overall investment strategy. Consider starting with a provisional patent application when you have something worth protecting and scale it up as your business validates. If you're not sure if you're ready for that first step, I've created a free provisional patent readiness checklist. It walks you through 5 areas to assess before you spend a single dollar on patent filings. There's a link in the description to grab that. And if you already know that you need to protect something and you want to understand exactly what it'll cost for your specific situation, feel free to reach out to me directly. Next, I'll be covering what a provisional patent application actually is and whether it's worth it for your startup. Subscribe so you don't miss out on that one, and I'll see you on the next one.